Very welcome back. Now, our next guest is a familiar face on the Irish comedy scene and is regarded as Ireland's adopted Australian for his many appearances on Irish telly over the years.
Despite the pandemic halting a lot of artists' careers, comedian Damian has never been busier, and one of his popular lockdown gigs is airing on Virgin Media 2 tonight.
Yes, indeed it is. He joins us now in studio to tell us all about it. But first, let's take a look at him in the lockdown comedy special live at O'Rahilly House.
This is lovely. I mean, I love the deals up there, the shaved heads, brilliant. I like, if two more of you shaved your heads, you'd look like toes.
I've been gigging in comedy clubs and theatres for years. We should have been here. This is where all the crack is. This is brilliant. We got your own toilets. It sounds a bit weird though. It's like, where are you gigging tonight? By the pram sheds.
Brilliant.
New world, isn't it?
Good morning to you, Damian.
Morning, great to see you again.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dama.
Last time I was here, it was late January. It was completely different.
Yeah,
Of course.
We were doing an Australian quiz.
Yeah. No social distancing.
No. Wrestling each other.
Is that the community and the flats that went viral during lockdown with their bingo and all sorts of madness, O'Rahilly?
Yeah,
place.
that's how it all came about. Because they had already had the setup, the microphone and all that.
They have quite the reputation, don't they?
Yeah, they'll say yes to anything and they'll make it work. Because it's sort of like lockdown's brought a lot of communities together even more than they were before.
Yeah.
And like they all are like, have each got a set of skills. Everyone lives there, like the A-team. And they're like, I've got a PA, I've got a this, I've got a that,
And
I've
it
got some
comes
lights.
together.
And then they all come together. So they were doing bingo and quizzes and other stuff. And then through Danny O'Brien, the other comic who's on the lockdown special with me, we've been gigging everywhere. It was his friend's cousin. Very Irish thing to say. My friend's cousin.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, we know some comedians, and I live around the corner from there, and Danny lives around the corner from there. So it was locality that sort of made it all happen, and then we were sort of the blow-ins. But now they've accepted us as like when are they?
Oh, you're in the fold
well,
now.
hope so.
And you know what? Even though it looks strange, like the setup, the gig is the gig for you.
Yeah.
You're standing up there telling gags to people. Doesn't matter what the setting is, does it? You're working.
Yeah, and in a comedy club, you know, you'd have your sort of set, but then it might go off in tangents, and I'm sort of known for my bloody tangents. And here, everything's a tangent. You know, it's the first time you'll say it and the last time, because that particular thing might never happen
Location
again.
specific.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And that becomes the comedy.
Yeah.
So it writes itself, as they say.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, I mean, I suppose this is the new normal now, isn't it? Not that we have any kind of normal at the moment, but outdoor is the way to go. Outdoor is kind of the safe zone, I suppose. You're used to venues around the country. So is this kind of the nature of what the gig will look like in the future?
Maybe, just more outside. The sun is your spotlight and that, and if it rains. But then if it does rain, we bought an inflatable venue last week. It's like a bouncy castle, but upside down, so it's got a roof and all that. So it could fit about 150 people in there, but then social distance about 32 and a half. So we can do that. So all we need is a PowerPoint.
This is an inflatable room, basically.
Yeah, it just goes, it looks like a giant igloo. And it's got a door each side, like a zip. It's a giant thing, and it's real solid. It's like that. Like once it's bonded, it'll be there. So
is that the plan, to take this anywhere?
Yeah, so as winter approaches, we've got... Because everything was weather dependent. And the good thing about Ireland is it'll rain a lot, but then it'll stop raining a lot. So it can rain a lot. So if it's raining, you just wait for it. And so far... It'll stop, and then you can do a gig for 45 minutes, and then you can go back.
So what's the plan? You hook this thing up and travel around the country? Is that the idea?
Yeah, and so the only thing we need is like an electric generator, and we can gig anywhere. So if anyone has an electric generator in their shed that runs on diesel,
Anyone got a spare electric generator they don't need? There's your man.
because at the moment
gig anywhere then.
And now we've got really long power cables, so now we're just like, have you got a PowerPoint? So we can do a gig anywhere because we've got a PA system, we've got all that. So before it was waiting around. Before lockdown, like if you went. Can we do a gig in your backyard? People look at you like you have 10 heads.
Exactly.
But now people are like, oh, I definitely want to gig in my backyard right out in the field.
How different has this year been for you, like everybody else, but in terms of work? Because, would you have been doing the festival circuit, Edinburgh, all that kind of hustle?
Yes, Edinburgh Fringe would have been happening right now, where most comics go to like do
What
their
is
show.
that like? What is that hustle like in Edinburgh? It's a tough...
Yeah, so 2,000 shows, something like that, and then you've got to get the audience in somehow. So you'd be flying, going, "Come on in now." But as I was just saying off air, we're doing that here, like for a daily for daily on the daily, and it's that's really helped us to go on. Well, there's no roof on us anymore, so the sky is the limit. It's like before you were going looking for an audience, now you're just going, "Where do you live?" You just go to their house.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
go to where they're
Perfect.
at. So that's it's
But
sort
people
of.
don't see that other side of the business in terms of, there's been a couple of documentaries over the years following comedians to Edinburgh. Like you're standing on the corner and you're handing out flyers trying to get people into your 20, 30, 40, 50 seater venue. It's a hard road.
And they'll take it and they'll look at you and go, okay, and they'll screw it up and they'll put it in the bin.
Stop.
And you
That's
go,
so
I've
disheartening."
worked a year on these jokes.
Yeah.
But as a comedian, Damian, you do have to have a hard neck, don't you? Because, I mean, every comedian in the world, like the comedians at the very top of their game will say they've had absolute disasters on stage as well.
And you always see the person who's not laughing. And then when you're doing these gigs outside, it's different because it's good for us to get used to it because you'll be doing a gig to outside or like a street party or something and people will be into it. And then there'll be someone up the back just hanging their wash. And you're like, could they have done that later? Like, there'll always be a thought in your head.
Could they have sorted that out before I started my set?
And the gig has to be good because, there's always the joke of rotten tomatoes and
Yeah.
Their kitchen is there. There's their bin.
with
You've
the
got to be
tomatoes.
good because they could be like, you think that's funny, do you? And like, so you're on your toes the whole time, but it's made us better comics because the elements are completely different because a lot of it was online, like everything's gone online, everyone's doing online gigs and that kind of thing, and it's just good.
Yeah.
Zoom gigs, I never even heard of that.
Yeah, but there's no
No.
connection though. It's different.
Nah, there's jokes you can do. Like they go, why do they call it Zoom?
Oh Lord.
Terrible joke.
Yeah, that is a terrible joke.
You can't do that live though. You'd have to do it to each individual person.
Yes.
But
So the gig is on tonight on Virgin 2.
yeah, version 2 at 10:50, I believe, and it was all thanks to the crew down at the O'Reilly House in Ringsend, and there's and the Irish Town George Reynolds house as well. We've been there a lot, and they're
Been
just
to
banging
both,
around.
yeah.
And
They
the-
certainly kept their spirits high during lockdown, didn't
if
they?
it wasn't for those
Incredible.
guys,
Love
and
their
it's
videos.
so Irish too. Like the guy that's in the show tonight with the sliders on and the mad socks. Danny was really ripping him, and then later on we're finding out that he's my missus's best friend.
Of course, he's
brother.
related to
And
you,
you're like,
yeah.
oh yeah, of course.
Welcome to
Damo,
Ireland, my
thank
friend.
you.
Thanks,
Pleasure
Damian.
as always. Now you can see Damian Clark in his lockdown comedy special live at O'Reilly House on Virgin Media 2 tonight at 10 to 11.
Right, still to come. Ronan Keating will be logging on to chat with us, and we've got arancini on the menu. Stay with us, we're live until 11.